Hello and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Hey, we're going to have a lot of fun this afternoon. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to start over in Costa Rica, get a quick marlin report. Then we're going to come make a tour of the state of Florida. We'll start up in the northeast corner with Captain David Voorhees, work our way all the way down, all the way up the west coast and out the Panhandle till we get the word from the water on every fish that's biting. Man, have things changed since the big blow. The hurricane affected essentially every part of Florida, and it really got the bait on the move and plenty of predators chasing them. Let's track those babies down. We'll get it started first, though, with a quick trip to Costa Rica to check in with our buddy Craig Sutton. Now, the Florida Sportsman Action Spotter is brought to you this week and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum. It's the best chum on earth, all right. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. By Young Boats, you want the finest in flat span offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. By the Castaway Hat Co, the hat that's helping save our seas. And by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Great stuff, low price, every day. And as always, we make our first stop in one of the most friendly cities I've ever been in. Let me tell you, folks, if you've never been to the Garza area, you've never checked out Craig's buddies there at Nosara, you have missed a treat. Man, they love Americans in your country, don't they, Craigie?
Oh, yeah, most of them. You know, some of them aren't good tippers, but they like to work with the good tippers for sure.
Oh, well, yeah, we know that much. But what a friendly, laid-back place you work out of. Any fishing going on down there this week?
Yeah, we fished a few times. We did. I mean, it was good. It was just, kind of typical like it's been. We didn't get, in the last 2 weeks, I think we fished 9 times. We got one mahi that was about 41-ish, not a real big one, but a nice fish. And then one like in the 30. And then we had a couple days straight that Dan Johnson out of Carolina fished bottom fish for grouper and really did good. And another thing, when we're grouper fishing, we catch these congrios.
Uh-huh.
They're snake-looking fish that are absolutely, without a doubt, one of the best tasting, if not the best tasting fish in the ocean. And they caught a monster. They caught one probably about 33, 34 inches long. That's a nice congrio. But, a lot of good eating fish. They had a red grouper that was probably 20-ish, That's a nice red grouper.
Yeah, that's a nice fire truck. Any billfish this week?
I think one sailfish, Ricky, but no, it's been, a little bit off on that, but we're not running the trip. The secret of the billfish is locate the schools and then just work them. Well, we're the only boats down in Central America fishing now, so we don't get any help from our neighbors to the north.
You get no intel, huh?
No intel. It's a big ocean, but you know what? The people really that we had, they really didn't want to catch a bunch of sailfish anyway. They wanted some eating fish, so they got plenty of that. They got a bunch of yellowfin to go with it too.
Well, there you go.
They were happy. That's all that matters.
Hey, Craig, you guys do a lot of live baiting down there. All right, I've been fortunate enough to be involved in a lot of those trips. What do your captains do to make their live bait stand out in a herd of 9 million bonita?
Well, that's it. First off, we use bonita.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to blue runners, or they call them Jay Wheatus in Central America. And I'm not a big fan of them even here in Florida, but much less down there. They're the last bait we'll use, but you put a really good presented bonita, and I think the bridle, they're giving off those stress signals. You don't really have to do much because those fish will just knock them like crazy. But it's a different fishery than here in Florida, like kingfishing or something like that. But they, and plus I think the bonita, when you got them bridled, they're a little slower. And these big caberas and roosters and broomtail grouper are used to not being able to catch them anyway. So maybe that's the trigger. But if you want to catch in our area, and let me stress that, in our area, if you bridle up and present a nice bonita or a small yellowfin too, Mr. Cabrera is not going to say no. But he'll be afraid of what's going to happen. You know, the strike is horrendous. It's just, you know, it's like any other aggressive strike. You got to be on your game to get the hook and get him away from the reef. But, you know, it's a rewarding fishery for sure.
I tell you, well, it's like my old boss that owned the Dos Amigos used to say, Cap, if we're going to win every fight we get in, I don't want to play. Well, you don't have to worry. Right. Oh, yeah. You don't have to worry about that if you're rooster fishing, do you?
No, you don't. I think we catch a higher percentage of the roosters that bite the hook than we do the caberas. The caberas, you know, and I was reading an article that said that 1 to 1.5 inch in length would equate to a year's growth. I'm not sure I agree with that, but that cabera, when he hits, it took me 3 or 4 years in hooking many of them before I said that's not a wahoo. They got a speed gear that when they feel that hook, they're unlike anything else I've ever seen. And they don't go back in the holes like the grouper do. They scoot along the bottom and they go up over the coral heads, so you get them cut off when they go down the other side. But that's a one challenging fish to catch. It really is. If you catch really probably 1 out of 10 that bite your hook, that really get the hook, not just necessarily bite, you've done something.
Craig, it's always
now the you'll get 1 out of you'll get probably half that hit the bait.
What's always fascinated me is that there are some species that have a plan and some species that don't. You ever think about that? A cubera has a definite plan. He knows what he needs to do to get away.
Yeah, he's got the habit. He's in a habit.
And over in Florida, our grouper have plans. I mean, they know where they're going. They're going to rock you up like right now. Mm-hmm. A red snapper's going to pull hard and try and get away. He doesn't have a plan. A grouper is like, I'm going to eat this bait, and if it stings me, I'm going around behind that rock right there, bam, and he's gone. Snapper don't have that kind of plan, Craigie.
It's different. It's a different fight. Yeah, no, I know it. But see, the cabera, now the roosters, they'll bust out and make a scream and run on you, and then they'll circle around and make a big giant circle, where the cabera takes off at Mach 2. And like I said, he'll go up over the reef and go down the other side. And you've got to have a captain that's really sharp and to get him. And I'm talking about big caberas. He's got to swing the boat around. So it's an orchestra for sure to get that fish. Yeah, I know it. And it's like the wahoo. They just use that brute strength and speed to get that hook away from them.
Right. They've got no set plan. An amberjack, he's got a set plan. He's going to go get back in the ledge or the wreck or whatever. But you're right. A wahoo, he's going to swim around. A mahi, he doesn't have a plan. He's not going anywhere. He's going to jump and he's going to try and throw the hook. But there are certain fish, snook come to the top of that list, that when they take a bait, they got a plan. Craigie.
Oh, by the way, Ricky, talking about snook, we'll post it tomorrow. Check out the 28-pounder Javier caught yesterday.
Oh, that's night. A good one. That's a
nice one. And we're in the habit of putting them on boca grips. We don't just guess, because to me that drives me nuts.
Yeah, I know.
But I want to be accurate from selling my catch many, many, many years ago. But they are just a nice one. It's definitely a 28 for sure. That's a nice snook, especially from our shore, where again he's got the terrain in his advantage, and he's got a plan too, buddy. And he's pretty smart rascal.
Yep, they sure are. Thank you, Craigie. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
I'll look forward to it, Ricky.
All right, buddy. Craig Sutton from Nosara Paradise Rentals and FishingNosara.com. Our thanks to Craig Sutton for a great Nosara report. Now, time to hit Northeast Florida. That's David Voorhees' country. David, how are you?
Hey, Captain Ricky. I'm doing good, buddy. I'm still here.
I'm going to predict you've seen some mullet this week.
Oh, my gosh. Rick, this is perhaps, and I'm not exaggerating because we've seen some pretty good mullet runs, but this one is one of the best. It's absolutely phenomenal. And just the amount of mullet, the amount of bait that's pouring out of these inlets in the river it's unbelievable. It's really good to see that. Fishing's been, it's been a good week. We've had beautiful weather. The weather's been right, but we've still got a little issue with dirty water. It's like we can't get rid of this dirty water. And it's sort of been an issue, but the fish are biting. The fish are there. You just have to get out, really pound the pavement, and really look for them. The flounder bite this week was a little off for me. I had a few, but nothing to write about. We had that flounder pounder tournament this week, and I did not hear how they end up. Did you hear what ended up getting the biggest flounder?
No, I didn't, but the numbers that I heard very late in the tournament were not good. So, they were like 6 pounds, which is a very nice fish, but it's not.
Yeah, not Jackson,
winner.
Not for Jacksonville standards.
Right,
come on, that's not Jacksonville. We're used to having way double digits.
Yeah.
But anyway. Trout fishing was a tough one this week. We had a couple of tournaments this week, and guys, struggled trying to catch trout. And but there's always somebody going to catch some trout. So there was some trout caught feeding on the top water, feeding on mullet, and they were around the Intercoastal and St. Johns River area, around Chickapit in that area. They did really good on the trout in that area, which I've caught them in there before. Plenty of small reds, plenty of reds up on the flat. You just got to cover lots of water, and don't let the muddy water discourage you. It's going to clean up. It's going to get better, and just go to brighter colored lures or brighter colored jig heads. That seems to help me out when I get in these dirty water conditions.
Gotcha. And that was a question that I had for you for this week, David. When you're fishing in these massive schools of mullet swimming down the Intercoastal along the river and stuff, how do you make yours look a little better?
Well, the thing is I've always wondered that, and I even tell my clients when I'm fishing, whether what we're using, I look at them and say, guys, your lure is 1 in a million out there.
Right.
Not to discourage them, but just to let them know that sometimes having too much food can be make it a tough bite, But I think, Rick, when you put a hook in a fish, you're going to put a little more scent out. He's not going to wiggle the way he normally wiggles. I think he's going to stick out of the pack just because, one, a lot of times he's not swimming with the school. He's actually probably getting pulled off of it or away from it. He's got that hook in him, so he's going to react a little different. I think he's sticking out just with the hook being in him.
I see. Yeah, David, this is very unofficial, but what I'm seeing on the internet is that the winning 3-fish ag was 9.1 pounds, and that, of course, is not good. Yeah.
No, that's really down. That's really down. But, we've seen a lot of flounder this year, but they've all been small.
Yep.
Not really big ones, but which gives me hope. Hey, that gives me hope.
Yeah, because we only got 5 more days till the season closes, and then they can spawn and do their thing for the next 6 weeks, hopefully, and to get us another crop of small ones.
Right, and let's see the new laws. Let's see how they're going to affect flounder. I'm one of those ones. I don't like to jump to conclusions. There was a few things about the new regulations I wasn't crazy about. I wasn't too crazy about closing it to recreational fishing and leaving it open to commercial guys. I wasn't too happy about that. But let's see. Let's give it time. And what I mean by that is give it time. I felt like the whole debacle with the snapper thing was we just jumped to conclusion there were no snappers. The snappers were coming back, and we know they did come back.
Yeah.
And I think you got to give sometimes these new regulations at least a minimal of 5 years.
I don't disagree, but spend 15 on the snapper now. It's getting a little ridiculous. David, as always, we appreciate it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
I can't wait, Rick. I'll see you next week, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. Captain David Voorhees. Now, let's head down to East Central. That's Jimmy Ross country and see how it's going there. Captain Ross, are you with us?
I'm here, buddy.
What's going on, my friend? Any fish in the Space Coast?
Yeah, last 2 days it has slowed. The daytime bite has slowed down a little bit because of the effects of the full moon. But the guys and gals that are getting out early before the moon sets are still doing pretty good on topwater live baits like finger mullet, croakers, and shrimp. All of those are solid in the lagoon right now. Just solid bets for catching fish. We're getting a good mixed bag right now, though, Rick. Even though the bite is slowed, the variety has sort of picked up in the lagoon. We're getting mangrove snapper, black drum, ladyfish, jacks, trout, redfish, snook, and tarpon.
Now, that would make me think that the water's in a little better shape. I know trout particularly are really susceptible to bad water. Jim, is it clearing up? Are we getting any grass growing?
Well, the Mosquito Lagoon has had some grass in it for about a month and a half. Not nearly the amount that we would like to see, but in those areas that there is grass, there seems to be, I guess, a gathering of redfish and trout to those areas. The black drum and the other species have really not been relating to that as much. The snook and tarpon, and in particular, have been relating to more like rocky structures, places like the Hallover Canal, docks along the Intercoastal Waterway from Oak Hill up through Edgewater and into New Smyrna, and then also the docks that are down around the Sebastian from about Palm Bay through Mico into the Sebastian and Wabasso area. So just depends on the type of fish you want to catch. You're going to try and target them on one type of structure or another.
Jim, let me ask you a question. When we've got these massive bait migrations that we've got going, like I'm sure you do right now, because I know we do with the mullet and everything. How do you make your bait different when you throw a mullet into a school of 10,000 mullet?
One of the things that I like to do, Rick, is especially if I'm fishing the near coastal water along the beaches and just outside of the passes and inlets, or even in the passes, the mullet are obviously cruising along the top or just under the surface. And I like to rig my mullet on a jig head, and that gets that bait fish down just a little bit further than the rest of the bait and makes them stand out a little bit. Also, gives them a more of a struggling effect because he's trying to carry that weight and try to keep up with the rest of the fish. So as he's struggling more, and he's also, sort of the last buffalo in the group, if you will,
right,
falling out of the rest of the pod, he becomes the target fish. And so that's what I try to do is make it look differently by adding a little bit of weight to it in most cases.
You know what?
The other thing
that's perfect. And you're right. That's perfect. And if the only thing I can relate it to, you see these videos of schools of bait with sailfish around them, and they always get one to leave the ball and be different. You understand what I'm saying? And the minute he leaves,
the one they pick on.
That's right. The minute he leaves that ball of bait, he's history.
The other thing that I like to do in a scenario like when we're fishing in the flats or in a grassy area, if you are fishing some of those places in the very northern Indian River or in the middle to northern Mosquito Lagoon where you are finding some grass, those fish are in that grass, but you don't want to weight your bait and get it down into the grass. Obviously, it's going to get snagged. So what I'll do in that case is I'll trim the tail. That way he doesn't, it's kind of like spinning your prop, if you will, on your boat. You're giving it gas, but you ain't going nowhere. And so they'll sit there and wiggle, but they don't have the full tail to provide the propulsion they need. So once again, it becomes a more frantic type of a scenario for that bait fish. He's trying to do what the others are doing, but he can't quite keep up. And once again, that frantic wiggle makes him stand out, and those predator fish can target on that one.
Got it. Perfect. What a great tip. Jimmy, the mullet are still pouring through en masse, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yep. I tell you what, it looks to me like a heck of a migration so far.
Better than we've had in quite a few years, and I'm happy for it, because anytime that you can get out there and see just acres and acres of bait, that's obviously a good thing. But the other thing that you want to do is you don't just be satisfied because you see a little strike here and a little strike there. If you're fishing out on the beach, you want to run until you find that area that looks like it's World War III going on. When you see multiple breaks in the mullet, multiple splashes, multiple showering events going on, that's where the majority of the predators are. So you want to, even though it all looks good, try to run at least a little bit up and down the beach until you find where that heaviest activity is, and then fish there.
Great tip. Great tip. Thank you ever so much, Jim. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
I look forward to it, Rick.
All right, Captain Jim Ross from East Central. Now it's time to head on down to my favorite little fishing village, Stuart, Florida, and talk with one Captain John Earhart. Skip, how we doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Good. Any fish biting off, Stuart?
Yeah, we've got pretty good inshore and pretty good offshore fishing right now. The offshore fishing, the sailfish have kind of died off a little bit, but we've had a lot of smaller mahis that have really made the day enjoyable, because in between those very few sailfish bites, we're catching a lot of mahi. There's been a few small wahoos in the mix and a lot of bonitas. So the trolling with dead ballyhoo has been pretty productive this week. And if you get tired of trolling after a few hours and you got 10 or 12 mahis in the box, we've been getting a lot of vermilion snappers, anywhere from 90 to 160 feet of water, and we've been catching those on chicken rigs with cut bait. You mark them pretty thick, you drop down, and you catch a couple pretty quickly. So that's an easy fish to catch, and they taste pretty darn good in my opinion.
John, I've heard reports and seen pictures of really big vermilions in your area this year in relatively shallow water. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, I mean, that's been a common thing for years in Stuart. It just seemed like a lot of people didn't really target them. But yeah, we've always had really big vermilion snappers. They just they come in from the deep water into the shallow water to spawn, a couple times throughout the year. And when that happens, that's when you're going to be more likely to catch those big breeder vermilion snappers.
Man, I've seen pictures of some horses that have been caught recently. I don't think it was in Stuart, but I saw an honest to gosh picture on the internet, and having sold vermilion snapper back in my youth for several years, I can tell you that I really do believe I have now seen a picture of a 9-pound vermilion.
Yeah. Their heads get really small.
They do. They don't fit their bodies anymore. I've caught those like that. I think the biggest we ever caught was 7. But you're right. It looked like he just outgrew everything he had. There was an old cartoon character when I was a kid called Baby Huey, and it was Baby Huey outgrew everything, and that's what this vermilion looked like. Hey, John, are you fishing the mullet run at all?
Oh, I really wanted to touch base on that while we're talking, because the mullet run, it kind of started out a little bit slow with Hurricane Ian. It seemed like it kind of screwed things up for us. But, man, the past couple nights I've had some really phenomenal snook and tarpon fishing. If you're in the right area where the concentrations of finger mullet are right now, it just sounds like somebody's throwing cinder blocks in the water, because it's snook and tarpon galore. We've had a few jacks. But, yeah, we seem like to have started the peak mullet run here in Stuart right now. So there's definitely mullet to be had. But it seems like during the daytime, it's kind of lackluster. You're not seeing a whole lot going on. First light and sunset and after dark is when you're going to have your best action right now in the Indian and St. Lucie River systems.
Do you do anything to make your mullet stand out in the horde of 9 million mullet, or do you hook it different, or how do you get him to act when all those mullet are going off?
Sometimes, I'll throw a dead mullet out on the bottom, to get down to those fish that are going up and feeding, and then going back to the bottom and hanging out. I'll catch additional fish doing that.
Uh-huh.
But typically, I'll anchor up in a certain area where I'm seeing the most surface activity, and then I just keep my mullet out there stationary. So, the mullet will be migrating through, and you have 10,000 mullet, and then you'll have that period where they kind of push out of there for a little bit, and then you have your lone mullet where there was just 10,000 mullet, and that just makes it much more likely for you to get a bite. But if you think you're going to pull up to a giant school of mullet and throw yours in there and get a bite, and you do, you're going to be pretty darn lucky, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Good deal. John, that's just what we needed. Thank you so much, buddy. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yep, we'll touch base next week with more fish.
Okay, Captain John Earhart out of Stuart, Florida. Before we head to Miami, let's get a word from Shimano. I'm not sure who first coined the phrase, the only thing saltwater can't destroy is saltwater, but I know what it meant to the engineers at Shimano. That sounded just like a challenge, and their response is now on the shelves of Strike Zone Fishing. The new spinning reels are called Twin Power, and they feature the Infinity Drive, which means there's not a fish around that they can't stop. It's because of their new heat sink drag, and that means a hot wahoo or tuna can run just as fast as they want. You never have to worry about your drag heating up. Even better, the new Twin Powers are built to become the best reels ever at fighting saltwater intrusion. Listen, everybody's heard or experienced the problems with seeing the latest and greatest actually on the shelves of your local tackle shop. Well, I'm here to tell you, Shimano has a unique partnership with Strike Zone Fishing, and that means you can always count on finding the latest and greatest lining the shelves of both Strike Zone locations. Now, time to hit the mayor of Miami himself, Captain Ray Rocher. Ray, how are you?
I'm good.
Good deal.
Does that mean I get a key to the city or something?
Yes, you do. Yeah, you get a key to the city. You never have to buy another cold drink in your whole life. You just tell them I said so and see how far that gets you.
Right, exactly.
Tell me about your fishing in Miami, Ray.
We fished today. Actually, we had 3 boats out, and they caught a variety of fish. Some reef fish on the other boat. One boat had a sail, and the other boat had some kings and jacks, and actually had a limit of kings also. And we kind of trolled for dolphin and found some nice gaffers underneath some hawks and a couple bunches of them, and I think we caught 7 dolphin and up to about 15 pounds, and then we fell back to some bottom fishing, caught some snappers and 1 legal grouper and 1 blackfin tuna, and just good variety.
Ray, that's
not a whole bunch of any one thing, but
that's a fine fish box right there. Now you said something interesting. You said you found the dolphin under hawks. Are you talking under frigate birds or what?
Frigate birds, yeah, but in shallow. So the last 4 days, these fish have been inside of 300 feet in the dirtier water.
Huh.
Like sailfish shower the ballyhoo on the reef. And
right.
It's all tuna tower fishing and getting up under the hawks and seeing them swimming. It's kind of interesting. I came back from the Bahamas 2 days ago, and we found some dolphin on the, what you would call the true blue edge, 20 miles offshore where that dirty water turned to purple. But most of the dolphin we saw on the way in were inside of 400 feet. It was interesting. We found 1 bunch 20 miles offshore and came inside, and there were 4 bunches in sight within 400 feet of water. And, we caught a few and went on to the dock, but we were just traveling back in from the Bahamas.
How about that? That's cool. Was anything going on in the Bahamas?
We caught we had 2 of our boats over there, and then the guy that got us over there, he had a big group. He brought his boat. So between 3 boats, I think we caught about a dozen wahoo and some yellowtails and yellow eyes and all that. So it was good. I think one day we had 5 wahoos, 20 to 50 pounds. So
I'm so glad I just remembered this. And when you said yellow eyes, it made me think of it. You and I had a conversation last week about the shallowest we had ever seen yellow eyes. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Right.
A friend of mine got 8 dandies now for here. What we call dandies are 3 to 4 pounds in 160 feet day before yesterday. That's crazy. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I marked a lot of vermilions today. It was really above average.
Good deal. Good deal.
Yeah.
Sounds like things are shaping up nicely for the fall. Ray, we appreciate the heck out of it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Captain Ray Rocher from the Miss Brit Charter Fleet. Our thanks to Ray Rocher for a great Miami report. Man, is that good to hear about all the mahi. The year is a little better this year than we've seen for the last few years. I'm sure glad to see it. Let's see if that's held up through the Keys. Brandon, how's your mahi summer been down there?
They're probably one of the worst summers of mahi we've seen, and God knows when.
Huh. It was a little better up the East Coast. Not good. Don't misunderstand, but at least a little better.
I think it's a better once you hit around that corner north of Elliott and whatnot. Once you hit that corner, I feel like that is a little better. But it's not great down here, few and far between from mahi. But there's some spectacular fishing going on regardless.
Gotcha. What you catching?
Well, you can go out there and catch as many full-grown jumbo flag yellowtails as you want.
Hello.
Big jumbo yellows. And also there's been still some muttons around with them, like wire yellowtail. Put a mutton rod down too. And also the blackfin tunas have been phenomenal. Been a great blackfin tuna bite. Nice big ones too. And the sharks kind of came off the gas pedal a little bit, which is nice to get those bigger blackfins to the boat, those 20-pounders to the boat.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's been also a few sailfish here and there as far as out front goes, which is really cool to see, early on. Hopefully we get a good sailfish season. The mullet run. Let's talk about the mullet run, okay? The mullet run is in full force down here. You can walk on mullet, watching tarpon, giant jack crevalles, everything else just blow up on hundreds of thousands of mullets, and it is a blast. We had a day last week where we went 9 for 14 on tarpon in a 2-hour period.
That's a good trip.
And it was just a mistake on the ride home, on the way home, just running through miles of mullet. I mean, they're literally pelting into the side of the boat while you're on plane. And I came off plane because I'm just seeing tarpon going off everywhere. You put out a bait, hook up a tarpon, put out another bait, hook up a tarpon as quick as you can put a bait out. And that was really cool to see. The snook bite has been red hot. You can get a snook one after another if you catch the right place at the right tide. So the patches are heating up a little bit too. The patches are starting to get really good. Once these water temperatures start dropping a little bit, it's just going to get better. And this is my favorite time of year. That's all I can say, Rick, is my favorite time of year to fish down here.
That's a beautiful thing. Now, let me ask you something, Brandon. When the mullet are so thick like they are now, you can walk on mullet, you just said, and it's that way up here too. Do you do anything to your mullet to make them stand out from 9 million other mullet?
Yeah, I cut the tails off.
Do you? That's what my mentor up here always did. He would cut the tails off, makes them struggle, puts a little blood in the water, and yet they can't get away from the predators.
Yes.
Okay,
every time.
That's the secret. Cut the tails off.
And I even throw a couple other ones just like that in the water. I mean, because you could right now throw the net and have more than enough mullet to do it. So I even put a couple next to them that are the same exact way, and I keep the bail open.
I got you. Okay.
I keep the bail open. I get a handful and cut the tails off, throw them in, and cut the tails off my mullet and have them all together, kind of. But not too many, of course. There's a couple. Like, throw your hook bait out and throw like 2 or 3 others next to it. Cut the tails off and keep the bail open.
Outstanding. Oh, what a great tip. Brandon, thank you ever so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Always.
Okay, Captain Brandon Storen from right there at Bud and Mary's in Alamorada.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils. Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Rod, Dodge. You know, being consistent is the mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to use second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Unfortunately, we got to face reality. We have had a devastating hurricane hit Southwest Florida, and right on the edge of the storm, if you will, has been Captain Steve Dahl, who thankfully, I think, for you got through it pretty good, right, Steve?
Yeah, I did. I actually, personally, I reside a little bit north, of my region, more in Greg Stamper's region, actually. So I was actually spared a little bit, but from my house and things like that. So I'm pretty blessed there. And our boats were all accounted for. They're shuffling around and moving some boats. So our operation also has some larger tour boats too that we kind of secured during, anticipating the storm surge. So all in all, we're in pretty good shape, relative to some others. So
now you guys are putting the fishing rods away for a little while and going to work helping your neighbors. Is that the plan?
Yeah, that is the plan. So we've got, like I said, those two large tour boats are coming in real handy if they can't be running sunsets or, sunset trips or dolphin cruises. And obviously the fishing is going to take a back seat here, for a while. And we're going to be kind of running pretty much Sanibel and Pine Island area, transporting electrical workers, upwards of 600 electrical workers per day.
Wow.
That's the effort they're putting into this. So our two tour boats, along with boats all the way across the region. Boats have come down from Sarasota, across from the East Coast, and have all kind of converged, and it's pretty amazing. We're 10 days removed from this hurricane, and this is all come together. The rebuilding Sanibel, the Sanibel Causeway to allow access, but in the interim, barges have come into the area, dropped off heavy equipment. Area captains, unfortunately, have lost, a ton, and a lot of them have lost, their boats. Their homes, and, tourism is going to be a little bit down this year. And so with this effort, we've been able to, bring on about 7 area captains, both in my region and Greg Stamper's region, and kind of get these guys working. And it's good work, pays well for these guys. And, you got to take care of your brotherhood. So it's, and they're qualified to do it, which is, the other unique thing. I will tell anybody aspiring to get a captain's license, make sure you just take the extra time and get the master's license, because this is a perfect example of you can run inspected boats, which are boats more than 6 people. You can get to work in situations like this. So keep that in mind. Let
me tell you something else you better keep in mind if you're going to become a charter captain and you're going to join this community. There's gonna come a time for you to step up too, and not because the government says you have to or your license says you have to, it's because you have to. And that's how you become part of this community. Every single fisherman that I know is participating somehow. I've made a couple of trips down to Stewart to send generators and what little bit of cash we could put together over there, and of course water and gas and diesel and all the necessary stuff that we could find all the way down to cat food. That's part of the game, Cap.
It is, and it's probably, you can attest to this. So having a lifetime in this industry, the brotherhood and sisterhood, if you will. It's the most selfless people I've ever met in my life. I mean, I just get touched every time. You just bond together. I mean, this is a really tragic event, of course, but I mean, even smaller efforts, someone's family goes, and is sick, or, I can't say how many times we've all probably been out of a boat because of mechanical issues.
Oh, yeah.
Guys step up. Hey, use my boat on Tuesday. Hey, you can have mine on Wednesday. I mean, we've all done it, and given our boats away, and we've all taken it off.
Yep.
But, we help each other out in unique ways, and it's I don't know where else that exists. I hope it does, because that's the good of humanity. But I know for sure, and you can attest, it's definitely present in our industry. For sure.
I've never wanted to be anything except a Florida fishing boat captain. I promise you, my whole life.
Yes, sir.
Steve, you please continue to let us know what we can do. My generator has been freed up. I'm very happy with that. Down in Fort Myers, it's available. If you find somebody that's got a need for it, it doesn't have to come back to Jacksonville. It can go from Fort Myers to you. Whoever needs it, you just let me know, Cap.
Hey, we appreciate it.
Hey, we appreciate you, Steve. Godspeed. I hope everybody's answering all the needs and prayers of the people in Southwest Florida, and we'll talk next week.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Rick.
Thanks, Captain Steve Dahl from 10,000 Islands. Our thanks to Steve Dahl for bringing us up to speed with everything that's going on down in his area at 10,000 Islands. They've all converted from running fishing charters to hauling rescue workers. God love them. And they're going to get that Sanibel Island rebuilt before you know it. Now, let's talk to somebody that did not have the massive effect of the storm and's actually been out doing a little fishing, Captain Ray Markham. How we doing, Skip?
Oh, we're hanging in there, buddy.
Okay.
Not too shabby.
Well, good. Yep. None of us can complain unless we live down there. Tell me about your fishing.
Well, actually, the redfish thing is just really fired off in the last month. And, I mean, it's typical this time of year. A couple of years ago, the big breeder size reds hung around till late into the month of December, which is a little unusual. So I'm hoping they stick around because they're really providing some great action, some big fish. I mean, there's fish anywhere from, the mid slot all the way up to the mid 40-inch range. So we got some big ones over here, and they're not real picky about what they're eating either. I've thrown a combination of D.O.A. shrimp at them. I've thrown gold spoons, the Eppinger Rex spoon I've thrown at them. Some of the mirror lure topwaters, the top dog, the suspending baits that just seem to been hungry and eating everything. Still, we're having some issues with trout. I'm not really seeing a lot of trout around. As a real positive, Spanish mackerel finally started showing up, and they're trying to feed on whatever bait fish they can find. Now, with all that stirred up water and everything that we had out there in the Gulf and in the Bay, finally, a lot of the bait is starting to ball back up again. So it's making it a little bit easier for those schools of mackerel to come in and feed. And I've gotten a couple of pictures in the last week of some kingfish that some guys have gotten. And honest to gosh, these things are monsters. They did not say, the weights on them, guesstimate. I'd probably guess in the upper 50s to 60 pound range.
Yep. That's monsters.
So we're really looking forward to a great kingfish season if things pan out the way I hope they do. You had asked me something the other day with regard to mullet. We used to have a terrific mullet fishery here. It seemed to have collapsed years ago, and it kind of made a rebound. But the water quality issues that we've had have made it really difficult, I think, for them to come back because we've lost a lot of seagrass. But when we do have mullet that finally start getting together in schools prior to the spawn, which is just about any time, I'm finding now. You laugh. you want to throw a bait that they're going to eat, and the redfish schools seem to be following the mullet schools as well.
Right.
And there's two things I found. One, they will eat mullet in a heartbeat. And two, they really eat the heck out of crabs and shrimp when they're following the mullet. So, I although I love throwing a topwater that looks like a mullet imitation, there are times when if I want something to just plain stand out and get scarfed up in a heartbeat, it's going to be a shrimp. So,
all right.
Just for those that like to throw an artificial every now and then.
Yep. I know it. Let me tell you what, it's hard to beat a natural bait, but an artificial fisherman is an artificial fisherman. I've learned that much. And Ray Markham, by the way, is an artificial fisherman. But you are one of the best I've ever seen, and I am lucky to have learned from you. I promise you. But,
wow, I thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
That's true. You work at D.O.A. shrimp like a thing of beauty and do an awfully good job with it. Ray, thanks so much for the report. Don't feel bad about the trout. Everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's complaining about our lack of trout this year, and maybe it's cyclical. I certainly hope so. We'll check with you next week if that's okay.
Keep the faith, brother. I'll see you next week.
Captain Ray Markham. Our thanks to Ray Markham for a great West Central report. Now let's head up to one of my absolute favorite all-time action spotters, the mayor of Homosassa, one William Toney. How we doing, Skip?
Doing good. Enjoying this beautiful, October weather. A little bit of air temps are dropping. It's got the deer moving. Got the trout pushed up in tight. Got the redfish going up. Got the gag grouper moving in just a little bit closer, too. So we've had a couple mornings in the upper 50s, and that's dropped that water in at about 74 degrees offshore here on the Big Bend.
I got you. Now, you mentioned got the deer moving. Do we have some venison in the freezer?
We do not. We had the storm kind of mess me up. I had to take off work. Now I had to go double work, but I do got my days coming here ahead to go get it done.
I've heard this for years already. Tell me about.
Hey, so has my wife.
I know. So's mine. Tell me about your fishing, buddy.
All right. If you're looking for good redfish and you want to hit the first part of that incoming tide. And a lot of our redfish are starting to school up right now. So if it's a collar day, you can actually see the push of the fish, as they move in toward the keys. And what I like to do is kind of give them a wide berth, let them do their thing, and let them come in and settle down. And when they settle down like that, that's a great way to, get into them and have a really good time catching them. Now, if you like to pursue them and keep harassing them, what they'll do, they keep moving away. And eventually they'll move out to the flat so deep you'll lose sight of them. You may catch one or two, but you're not going to sit there and have the time of your life.
All right. So what's the key to not harassing them but still being able to catch a few?
Is what I like to do is get up there and pull and just kind of watch them, and it'll take a long time. It's sometimes. It may take 30 minutes or so, but when they do get in there and settle down like that, anchor far enough away that it's a long cast, even a long cast with free line and a bait to get in there to that school without getting too up close and personal with them. Now, we had a day on this past Friday where we had to hold the first fish that was hooked. The whole school followed it right up to the side of the boat. So it was a free-for-all there for about 10 minutes. And I always call it the redfish boogie. So if you get 2 or 3 on at one time and everybody's ducking and weaving and going, and the water clarity is very good, so you can see the other fish chasing the other ones. It's a fantastic way to catch them here in the fall.
Oh, boy, it sure is. Hey, William, let me ask you something. When we've got mullet runs going on, we got bait migrations going on, which are happening all over the state this time of year. When you're fishing in a herd of bait, what do you do to make your bait stand out?
All right. Well, we don't use a lot of mullet here on the Big Bend, maybe some figure mullet or cut mullet, for redfish bait. But our biggest live bait that we use in Big Bend is probably pinfish, and we've got tons of them. And there's different methods. You got pinfish traps where you could get hundreds of them at a time at probably an hour in the water of the trap to fill it up. And what I like to do is I use a small hook. It's not, I don't even know what size it'd be. It'd be like a number 1 little hair hook. And I catch those pinfish right there in the same water that I'm fishing. So me being superstitious about fishing, if you're catching the pinfish right there in the same waters that the fish are in, there's a scent or there's something about it while they're there. But what I do to make that pinfish stand out against all the other ones out there on that flat, they're all shining. So if he's about 3 to 4 inches long, I take my knife and I cut right across the top of the dorsal, and then I cut right across, right there by the anal fin and the tail, and I kind of turn that pinfish into a square. And then I take my hook, and right at that point where I cut and made that perfect 90-degree angle, that's where I place my hook. You got the blood in the water for the scent. You got a struggling fish who's just going nuts out there, and they can't resist it. And I also believe taking that dorsal fin off and with the pinfish, you get a lot better hookup because those little spines will hang up in their mouth. And the only thing to hang up there is that hook that you placed right at that little 90 degrees.
That's perfect because he's going to have a little different struggle motion to him with that. With all that chopped off of him. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great tip.
They'll stay alive for a minute or two, but enough to get the job done, and they're out there struggling and smelling, and it's a great way. Now, sometimes you can get them a little bit bigger, but the ones that I like the best for that is about probably 3 to 4 inches. And then even if it's one about 3 inches, sometimes I'll use my pliers and just crimp his tail a little bit, bend that prop up so he's kind of swimming erratically, not like the other ones, and he'll be the first one to get chosen to get 8.
Perfect. William, what a great report. Thanks so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
I'll be right here in downtown Homosassa.
Hopefully you'll be cleaning the deer. I'll talk with you next week, brother.
All right, bud.
Captain William Toney from the Big Bend. Our thanks to Captain William Toney for a great Homosassa report where he says cut the tail on that pinfish and cut his dorsal fin off. Swims different. Reds will pick him out every time. That means we're going to move on up into Northwest, and that's Kevin Lanier territory. Captain Kevin, how we doing?
Captain Rick, we're doing really good today. How about you?
Doing fine. Well, I tell you what, I just got done talking to the boys down in 10,000 Islands and Pine Island in that area. Believe me, you and I are doing fine.
Right. I remember that 4 years ago with Hurricane Michael, so I definitely understand where they're at.
I remember talking to you 4 years ago and hearing about the aftermath and what was left of your area around Mexico Beach there. But let's talk about something more cheerful. Did you fish this week?
Yeah, we fished this week. We actually went up today. It was a little bit breezy today. We also went yesterday. And got a couple of really nice grouper. We got a scamp, some amberjack. We got just a whole plethora of fish outside of the red snapper, which for most of the guys, and I know it's a sore subject, but the weekend red snapper fall season has opened over here in the Gulf. And we had one of our boats go out with just a fun trip with local people, and they were able to catch a limited red snapper. And, so fishing's really good. I mean, the water temperatures cooled down to about 77 degrees, a lot of bait in the area. So today we were out a lot more breezy out of the north. So it kind of shut the bite down with some Spanish mackerel, and we had a few other nice hits. Friday, we went out, did some fishing over in Indian Pass and Apalachicola Bay, got some nice redfish, just a good day on the water. So there's still plenty of fishing up here to do.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Now you get this coming weekend, you get red snapper fishing, or is it over now?
No, we get red snapper fishing, I believe, the remaining Saturday, Sundays of October, and then 2 Saturday, Sundays. Well, I mean, just tell it, I don't make the rules.
Just shut up.
The first 2 Saturdays and Sundays in November. And they scheduled that at the beginning of the season. So it was pre-scheduled before we ever dropped the first line back in June.
That's so weird. That is so weird, and we're just praying for relief over here. But I keep telling everybody, we get triggerfish 12 months a year. I'm not going to swap.
Well, I mean, like I've said many times, red snapper is not my favorite fish to eat by any means.
I think it's overrated. I
agree.
I'm a great triggerfish guy, buddy. I mean, I'd much rather eat them. So I guess it all works out in the wash. Cap, we appreciate it ever so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
We'll be back here next week. I promise you that.
I look forward to it. Captain Kevin Lanier. Now let's move on out to the edge of the Panhandle and check in with Captain Tyler Massey. How we doing, Tyler?
I'm doing good, Rick. How are you guys?
Good. Any fishing going on over there in the Gulf?
Yeah. So fishing's been really good for us the last couple of weeks. So in the bay, I always talk about our redfish starting to heat up in the fall. Well, our we got in the slot size redfish and also have bull reds. We've been catching some slots, and then just really the last couple of days, the bull reds have started to show up in the bay, and that's the fishery where you search for the school and then you cast some sort of lure into the school once you find them. Typically we start to see them not early morning. It's more like when the sun gets up, middle of the day, sun shining type thing. Look for bird action, bust in the water, and you'll see the fish white watering on top. It's a lot of fun to catch those big bull reds on the surface.
Now that's so strange to me, Tyler, because they used to do that here off of Jacksonville, and they don't anymore, despite the fact we have massive numbers of big bulls. Our river channel will literally almost get lined with them, and guys can catch all these big monsters they want to, but they don't come up in school on the surface offshore. When I was a charter boat mate, my goodness, we had many a day that were made this time of year by the captain being able to spot a school of giant reds from the bridge. Of course, we didn't know any better. We kept them all when we caught them, but we've saved many a day by doing that. And over there, you're telling me they still come to the surface, huh?
Yeah, and it's happened every fall for a long time in Pensacola Bay and right here in the Gulf outside of our pass. It's definitely the fish getting ready to go to spawn. I think most of the fish that get in the schools on the surface, they're feeding on menhaden and mullet, silver mullet, and that kind of stuff. I think most of these are from out of the area. It could be a population that lives in the Gulf and they come into the bay to feed on the menhaden leaving the bayous. But it's pretty consistent. The second half of the month of October and then all of November, they're somewhere almost every day.
That's outstanding. Have you heard anything from the deep water? Any wahoos and tunas and billfish?
Yeah, so the wahoo fishing's been actually getting pretty good. Anything over, like 300-foot ledges in the bottom and stuff, deeper than 300. The guys who are high-speed trolling are catching them. Also, putting out spreads for other stuff, the Islander combos and maybe a lip plug or something like that. They're picking off a few wahoos as well. The last week or so, we had some nice weather. The guys fishing those fads, they did pretty good. Some white marlin shots, blue marlin shots, and some mahi-mahi. So the water cleaned up out there for a little bit. I heard the last couple of days it kind of dirtied up a little bit again, but I think right when it cleans back up, there's still going to be some fish around hungry out there ready to bite.
Yep, sounds fantastic. You're as far north as they can go in the Gulf, so hopefully they'll hang there for a while. Water will stay good enough, and you can get on them. Tyler, thanks so much for a great report, and we look forward to talking with you next week.
All right, Rick, we'll see you.
Captain Tyler Massey from Pensacola, Florida. Before we put a wrap on it, let's hear a word from Academy Outdoors. Academy Sports and Outdoors' mission is to provide fun for the whole family by carrying all the best gears from top brands including Columbia, Yeti, Costa, Penn, Shimano, and more, all at prices you're going to love. Whether you're planning on spending a day at the beach, hosting friends in the backyard, reeling in a big catch, or gearing up for the game, Academy has a wide assortment of sports and outdoor products that will guarantee that you have fun out there. Academy's new store in Panama City is rocking. And look out, Tampa, because there's one headed your way. They're providing a dynamic and fun shopping experience while also offering convenient options such as buy online, pick up in the store, free shipping on most online orders over $25. When shopping at Academy, customers are going to be able to take advantage of some of the craziest in-store services. How about free assembly on grills and bikes, scope mounting, bore sighting, line winding and spooling, propane exchanges, and the ability to purchase hunting and fishing licenses right there. With Academy's best price guarantee, if you find a better advertised price elsewhere, not only will Academy match it, but they're going to beat it by 5%. Hey, check out the new store in Panama City, get ready for Tampa, or you can shop online at academy.com or through Academy's mobile app. Sign up for email alerts, receive digital ads and offers, and engage with Academy's social media accounts. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price, every day. It's been a fun trip around the state. It sure has. I'm so proud of our boys in Southwest Florida. They have just morphed from being fishing guides. What are they doing now? They're running rescue trips out to Sanibel and their surrounding islands that need help, running electrical workers out there, getting life back to normal. I'm so glad to live in Florida. I got to be honest, I love our governor, and I think we're going to rebuild faster than anybody's seen. Florida Sportsman Action Spotter is brought to you this week and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum. It's the best chum on earth, all right. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. By Young Boats, you want the finest in flat span offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. By the Castaway Hat Co, the hat that's helping save our seas. And by Academy Sports and Outdoors, great stuff, low price, every day. Hey, until next week, for Florida Sportsman Magazine, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and we'll see you on the rip.